Hello there and welcome to Love, Light, and Lunacy. I'm Erica Ann, and today we're talking about a topic that is becoming unfortunately more common in modern society, narcissism. And it's not just a personality trait. This is a widespread issue that has infiltrated our businesses, healthcare systems, judicial systems, social support structures, as well as our everyday societal life. The lack of empathy and compassion in these areas highlights this true crisis that we're actually facing. And it goes so much more beyond the individual, right? It's a societal epidemic that is bringing strife to the world's most vulnerable people. And it's really easy to label others as a narcissist, but today we're talking about how to tell if you might be a narcissist or where you lie on the narcissistic spectrum, to be more specific, as there's going to be a lot less true narcissistic personality disorder diagnosis amongst you beautiful souls than you might think if you clicked on this video. But if you found yourself on this video, then I'm going to tell you something right now. Narcissistic personality disorder individuals are completely void of empathy. They wouldn't be here. Maybe you might find yourself why you could maybe be very dismissive of others, judgmental even, and you find yourself, however, pondering things after these negative interactions where you treated others less than ideal and you feel guilty. And I'm going to tell you right now, you're not a narcissist. Bye. Let's get into this actual video. We're going to go over the 9 key characteristics of narcissistic personality disorder, as well as how you can differentiate that between signs of narcissism. After we go through that, we're going to go over 9 things that you can do to overcome this within yourself. And now we're talking about patterns of behavior, not one-offs. So if you see these in yourself as I start to go, don't freak out. Healthy narcissism is considered a healthy sense of self, which is usually associated with the greater good. Individuals with a healthy self-image can balance high self-esteem with pro-social behaviors. On the other end of that spectrum, narcissism might negatively impact how you see and interact with yourself and with the world. Pathological narcissism can lead to a lot of stress in every single type of relationship. And if it's persistent in your life, it can lead you to receive a full, proper NPD diagnosis, should that ever, come to light. So on one side, we have this healthy narcissism, healthy sense of self. And then we have full-on clinical narcissistic personality disorder. And the all of society? Line somewhere in the middle. One end or the other. Clinical narcissism protects the ego and is characterized by authoritarianism, envy, grandiosity, shallowness, and a complete deficit of empathy and remorse. And that tends to serve only the individual with little to no respect or regard for the greater good or those around them. Narcissistic personality disorder is a long-standing and formal condition that can be diagnosed by health professionals. They, of course, would need to determine if you experienced at least 5 of the 9 formal symptoms across different situations, and they would need to see that persistent for, approximately 6 months of your life is kind of the general rule, depending on where you are in the world. And the symptoms will be affecting your relationships, your sense of self-identity, your lifestyle, and cause a lot of stress in your life, whether you're aware of that or not. So the 9 formal symptoms of narcissistic personality disorder are grandiosity, or that over self-importance, maybe you have unrealistic fantasies of unlimited success, power, or brilliance. For example, let's take Bob. Young man in college, he spoke in front of a crowd of like 10,000 people, and afterward he felt so validated that he actually thought he could become president and made a joke. But then the next day, in a smaller setting, Bob couldn't handle presenting to his peers, and he had an anxiety attack. That fluctuation between confidence and insecurity is a really big red flag. Narcissists often feel invincible when praised, but crumble when faced with vulnerability. So 2, fantasies about power and success. Our society does not help. Social media has turned validation into currency, and this need for external approval fuels narcissistic tendencies. It's all about me, how much attention am I getting? It really fuels narcissism and blinds us to the impact on those around us. 3, sense of entitlement. A narcissist believes they deserve special treatment, so they might be someone who just cuts in line or expects favors without reciprocation, or is impatient when they don't get what they feel they're entitled to. Like, for example, have you ever had a friend who expects you to rearrange your entire life for them but would never do the same for you? That imbalance often signals narcissism. Constant need for admiration and praise, in spite lacking zero drive or follow-through. A person with narcissistic tendencies constantly seeks validation. They might post endlessly on social media, fishing for compliments and likes. You can tell in their provocativeness of the photos, right? And we see this pattern increasingly in today's digital world, where likes and follows can easily boost someone's self-importance, in a false sense. We might notice people that feel down and agitated when they don't get enough praise. They cry at home because they're not getting enough attention. It's not about the validation itself. It's the craving for it that fuels that trait. The next one, use of manipulation tactics to take advantage of others. Narcissists often exploit others for personal gains. Relationships are not based on mutual respect or care. Instead, they're transactional. If a narcissist sees an opportunity to use someone to achieve some goals, they will do that, often without little to no remorse. Think about someone who befriends you just to access your network or resources, then disappears when they don't need you anymore. That behavior is unfortunately becoming increasingly common, especially as we raise children in environments focused on individual success rather than empathy and community. Limited to no empathy. A lack of empathy is one of the major indicators of narcissism. Narcissists struggle to understand or even care about the emotions of other people unless it serves their own needs. For instance, they might offer sympathy if it gets them something in return, but they can't truly connect with or feel compassion for other people's struggles. Real life example? Well, let's look at relationships. Imagine someone who can't acknowledge that they've caused their partner emotional pain after a fight, but instead focuses how that argument affected their reputation. The self-centeredness can cause severe problems in relationships and is a key trait of narcissism. Competitiveness, distrust, and jealousy. In narcissism, envy often manifests as resentment towards someone else's success, accomplishments, or qualities, accompanied with the belief that they don't deserve it or a desire to diminish them and their achievements. For example, a narcissist might feel intense envy when a coworker receives promotion. So instead of congratulating them, they dismiss that accomplishment and say, "You got that because you stuck up to the boss," while secretly plotting to outshine them or undermine their success. This stems from the narcissist's inability to tolerate others being perceived as superior in some way. 9. Arrogance and scorn towards others. A narcissist might respond to constructive feedback with disdain, saying something like, "What do you know? I've been doing this for years. You're just jealous of my 30 years of expertise." They dismiss other people's opinions as inferior and project this air of superiority, belittling anybody who challenges them. And it serves as a defense mechanism, and it protects their fragile self-esteem. So that helps for you to understand where you might lie on the spectrum, because if you resonate with 5 of those 9 traits, you could receive an actual narcissistic personality disorder diagnosis. And if you are curious and would like to do a test for yourself in which I can help to score you, please do check the description box below, as there will be a link linking you to my website where you can do just that. So, on the other end of that spectrum now, we have narcissistic traits. Personality traits might show up once in a while, for example, at work. Like, you act like you're the best on your team. Symptoms of narcissistic personality disorder, though, would lead to, grand demonstrations of needing support and consistent problems in every single one of your interpersonal relationships. So, the question a lot of people have then is, if I have some of these traits, does that mean that I have NPD or that I'm developing narcissistic personality disorder? Am I hopeless? And of course the answer is different for everybody, just like the narcissistic spectrum. But for example, you could strive to get ahead at work by any means necessary. You might be kind of a dick because you're very driven, but you are able to accept certain constructive criticisms from your spouse. So that's an example of a gray area. So narcissism doesn't, doesn't necessarily develop into a diagnosis just because you have some of the traits. NPD is a long-standing diagnosis and disorder, and traits are typically seen in childhood in these individuals and are usually not confirmed, if ever, until adulthood. And so recognizing this need for therapeutic intervention can be quite difficult, especially in this society, right? In today's society, we are increasingly seeing these traits in children, from the lack of empathy to the inflated self-importance. Adults no longer prioritize teaching niceness or emotional intelligence. Children absorb what they see, and if they're surrounded by narcissistic adults, they begin to mirror those behaviors. The result? A future generation that struggles with compassion and empathy. But it's a huge fucking issue, pardon me, and something that we need to address in how we raise and guide the future generation. Therapeutic intervention is typically hard, right, to recognize or get people into because the narcissist thinks they're special. So there's always a refusal to acknowledge any personality flaws or acknowledge behavioral issues at all. And it becomes increasingly difficult when you're raised in family dynamics with other narcissists, i.e. narcissistic parents who then groom and protect and are given narcissistic supply by the narcissistic relationship in the dynamics of the toxic family. So for those of you who are willing to say or maybe own up to this and say, like, maybe it is me, or maybe you know or suspect that you are involved in a family or relationship dynamic with a narcissist or narcissists. And if that's you, please watch this video to the end, and I'll tell you why. If you can watch this whole video and end it by saying, there's no way that me or my mom, my dad, my brother, my sister are going to be able to do any of these things and change, then this is a huge fucking wake-up call for you. And if some of you are thinking that maybe you can get your partner or parent or whoever on board with this, maybe there's a future in the relationship between you. Maybe not fully healthy, if neither of you are willing to do the work or one of you is pulling the other along, but each to their own. You have to be honest with yourself. If you think that you might be a narcissist, the things in this video are going to be the things that you need to do if you will ever have a healthy relationship in your future again, ever. So before I get into these 9 specific things, beautiful souls, if you haven't already, if you please like and subscribe to my channel. I'm trying to get to my 1,000 so that I can focus more on this content for those of you that need it. So if you think that you yourself might be a narcissist, listen up. What do you do if you think you're narcissistic? So I think it's important for everyone to take accountability for your actions, especially when it impacts other people. So look at your patterns, right? And that can be difficult. Like for me, I know I'm stubborn, I'm a little arrogant, follows under a pattern, right? And so if you want to be aware of what you're doing, I think there's something really courageous in that, admitting that you might have a difficult personality pattern or disorder. Maybe, you're a narcissist, or maybe you're antagonistic, but it's only courageous if you're committed to actually changing it. So I know some of you are probably watching this, rolling your eyes and thinking, why the fuck would you make this video? Especially if narcissists can't change. And on a population level and probability level, that is the crisis. It is going to be difficult, but I myself have seen the turnaround both within myself and within others who consistently work on this self-awareness, who work on trying to become aware of these traits, these triggers within ourselves. So, there's some of you that are going to be watching this that might be in relationships that aren't working, in family dynamics that aren't working. And maybe you're vulnerable enough right now to say, I don't want to do this anymore. I don't want to be a witness to this person hurting or being that way to others anymore. And if you are going to change, it means becoming self-aware all the time. Mindfulness to try to catch yourself to not fall into your usual patterns of responding. If you usually lash out when you're stressed, it's really hard, but you have to work on yourself consistently to come up with alternative responses. So we'll take it from the top since I already threw it out there. Number 1 thing you can do, be mindful. The number 1 thing, be mindful. So be really healing for you and everyone around you. Requires slowing down, paying attention to how you listen, how you speak, how you respond, what you say, and how your words and actions affect other people in real time. It's not about saying the wrong thing now, feeling bad about it later, even though that's better than not feeling bad about it at all. But it's about trying to consider other people's feelings when they're speaking or acting, or while you're speaking or acting. Trying to remember to pause before you hit send on a text. Breathing deeply, pausing before you say invalidating things to other people. It means believing in another person's reality. You don't ever have to take away from their reality. And if it's not how you've been running your life to date, then this might be a major shift for you. You might find your energy really depleted at the end of the day, because if you're doing this, you'll be, flexing this mental muscle that you don't usually use. And so this might mean shelving your contempt for other people or their opinions. Mindfulness means being present and aware in the moment, and not just thinking about what might have happened weeks ago or years ago, or thinking, wondering, well, if I do this mindful thing now, will it get me what I want down the road? Being present now. And that's the only way to learn the kind of self-awareness and self-monitoring that is essential for pushing past and addressing your past negative patterns in general, of course, but your past narcissistic patterns and traits. Take the word but out of your vocabulary as much as possible. Cutting to the course of defensiveness. People who have narcissistic personalities tend to be very defensive and very argumentative, and that's a classic part of that pattern, right? So let's start in a very easy and good place with that one. A good place to eliminate that word, because it's often the prelude to defensiveness, is, I know I said that, but. Go back to the mindfulness. Listen to people. Don't shut them down. If you're not agreeing with them, you can do so respectfully without saying but. And when you're called out for something that might have been uncomfortable for someone else, don't just be so quick to defend yourself by denying their reality. You don't have to say things like, I didn't say that, I didn't mean that, you took that wrong, blah, blah, blah. Listen to their perception. Commit to learning from the interaction. Don't be so quick to just defend yourself all the time, which will leave people feeling invalidated. Number 3. You have to get therapy. It's not just to assess the narcissism, but the co-occurring mental health issues. Family narcissism is typically a deeply ingrained pattern that occurs with a lot of other clinical issues that can go undiagnosed, which can include but are not limited to anxiety, depression, substance abuse, PTSD, issues with impulse, and other major mental illnesses like bipolar disorder, borderline personality disorder, histrionic disorder. It's really essential that you develop tools and get the appropriate intervention now, at the moment of your awareness. So in addition, we know that the pattern of narcissism has deep developmental roots, which can include trauma, neglect, or simply inconsistent parenting. And a lot of narcissistic people, because they're so defensive, are like, oh no, I had a perfect upbringing, I had a perfect childhood. Oh really? Maybe not. It's really important that you really explore those issues so that you can really understand how long-standing patterns are contributing right now to your personality style and the associated behaviors of them. So therapy becomes a really crucial and important place to effectively learn these tools to become accountable. And therapy doesn't always have to be seeking a clinical therapist. Now, as a training psychologist, I am not saying everyone should avoid seeing a psychiatrist or psychologist. If you feel called to do that, 100% beyond a doubt, please do that. I mean, everybody should. But, you have to be very choice about where you're getting care that is for your own internal growth, right? So when you're committed to your own growth, this awareness, and to understanding yourself and to wanting to make these behavioral changes, there are a lot of tools, and the most powerful ways to do that, which anyone can teach you, would be to go within yourself. But that takes developing new habits so that, things are not getting out of control. And so the reason why we lean towards like meditation and mindfulness is because they're the most powerful ways to instill new patterns, as quickly as possible. Again, seek what you're being called to. But when I say therapy here, I am meaning all sorts of therapy, from medical to holistic, on all ends of that spectrum. So, NPD is often associated with difficulties handling stress, and therapy is a great way to learn tools to handle that, right? It never feels good to be disappointed, but if you can maybe learn in a way to do it that might antagonize others less, it's a win there. There's a myriad of other issues that people with NPD styles can develop, like problems with relationships, work relationships, right? Pretty much getting into fights with everybody that you know. And so therapy is a beautiful place to learn how to manage these triggers. Get this advice, this guidance, if you have, no idea how to do that. And therapy can help with many other life challenges, like parenting, for example. It becomes a really important place for you to build that muscle of empathy that you maybe haven't been practicing in other areas of your life. So, number 4, focusing on gratitude. Huge. Thank you. Probably 2 of the most important words that exist in this universe, especially if they're being said from an authentic place. Gratitude is so good for us, and there's so much research showing the beneficial health effects of gratitude. And let's face it, it's good for everyone. Gratitude forces you to see other people and to recognize their contributions rather than to just take everyone for granted. Practicing gratitude, and specifically taking the time to notice the contributions of other people. Set your entitlement aside for 1 second. Express genuine gratitude without expecting something for that. And extend that to simply having gratitude for the things that are all around you. Number 5, focus on meaning and purpose. Viktor Frankl wrote, "In some ways, suffering ceases to be suffering at the moment it finds meaning, such as the meaning of a sacrifice." The challenge within a narcissistic person, or a narcissistic personality style, is that these people are often compelled by really superficial goals. Money, admiration, fame, power, winning, and it's not actually around meaning or value or purpose or a deeper sense of connection that this deeper purpose can provide. To connect to something larger than you forces you to go within and really grapple with these questions like, what am I about? What do I stand for? So it's really important to do inner work. You have to start shifting away from what's important, like, my car, what people think of your status, the followers that you might have. Shift your focus to something of value, something that's meaningful and will connect you to the larger world. Number 6, learn to make amends. In an authentic manner, say you're frickin' sorry. If you have NPD, you've likely hurt a lot more of the people close to you than you might realize. With the, gaslighting, deliberate cruelty, these things hurt people, Making amends is critical to addressing family issues, work issues, any relationship issues. It's a place to really work on reconciliation for everybody, It's not easy, and not everyone's even going to really maybe accept your attempt at reconciliation, and they don't have to. But if you are really going to address this pattern within yourself and seek freedom, it's really important that you at least make a good faith attempt to address it. If you want these people in your life, of course. You need to create new responses. Narcissistic personality people are not good to responding to stress or disappointments. And the thing is, with narcissistic people, they tend to take things out on other people when they're uncomfortable rather than finding healthier ways to cope for themselves and for others. So finding new ways to address your stressors can include taking a break, step away before you say something unhelpful, counting to 10, learning to deep breathe and not personalizing everything. To try to find appropriate outlets like yoga, exercise, meditation, sports, art, anything you can really channel that energy into. Number 7, you have to take responsibility for yourself. Narcissism is a trait characterized by deceit, denial, to cover your tracks, right? You say something, just fucking own it. Take responsibility. For example, with leaders, good leaders take responsibility. Good friends, good partners, good coworkers, good managers, they take responsibility. Yeah, it's uncomfortable to take responsibility sometimes when you fuck up, but it sets you free from this existing sense of shame. The world's not going to stop spinning if you caught to doing or saying something bad or abusive even. But if you take real accountability, real responsibility, and then issue genuine, heartfelt apology, true accountability and reconciliation is happening. And it's not just about saying, I'm sorry as a throwaway comment just to keep that train going smoothly. It's about taking ownership of your participation in an interaction that might have hurt someone else. Even if that interaction, they hurt you. Make your part of it right. Number 8, you need to engage in self-compassion. Love yourself instead of self-promotion. Self-kindness, self-compassion isn't about wrapping yourself up or bragging and creating a fake persona about how great you are over here. It's actually about being kind to yourself, knowing who you are, and then extending that to other people. And it's not always easy, especially if you have any narcissistic personality traits. You're not good at self-kindness because you're not really good at being kind to other people either. So being kind with yourself means being empathetic to your own hurts, your own wounding, and by extension, that should help you start to be kinder to other people, and vice versa. So now, common humanity is also not easy with people with NPD because they often don't look outside of themselves to recognize that we're all connected to each other, right? And so the contempt that narcissistic personalities can have for other people can really limit that ability to see this all as part of one, this whole of humanity. Because narcissistic personalities, you have to stop seeing everybody as an adversary, right? And instead see people as each dealing with the same shit. So, the last one. You know what? We're going to circle back around. Fucking be mindful. It's not always about staying in the present moment, which is crucial. But it's not wondering what's going to happen next. What about this? What if I make a mistake? Or about reviewing what just happened. It's getting out of this vindictive pattern of having to right the wrong. Be here now. Do it now. Take those patterns of narcissism and turn it around. So we know narcissism is about validation seeking. So flip that. So instead of expecting it for yourself, just start giving it out. Narcissism is about lacking empathy. So instead of lacking empathy, make an effort to empathize with people. Try. Narcissism is classified by entitlement. Make an effort to let someone else go ahead of you in line at the grocery store, for example, even if you know it's going to fucking irritate you. Narcissism is about arrogance. Let someone else be in charge for once. And then make note of how well they might actually be able to accomplish things. Narcissism can be about rage and impulse, so stop. Turn off the volume on some of your judgment and anger, and once you suspect that you might have some narcissistic traits, or maybe you are saying, I have full-on NPD, then you turn around, though, and you commit to the steps that I've been sharing with you. I promise you, your relationship with the world will start to shift, but it takes consistent effort. As you can see, breaking patterns isn't easy. I'm not going to tell you that this is going to be a cakewalk. Breaking patterns is hard, no matter what. We're programmed before 7, so cycles can be changed, but it takes hard work, determination, drive. Do not embark on a journey like this just to convince other people that you are no longer a narcissist. It's not about future faking. It's about daily, minutely, hourly awareness to committing to yourself, to a new way of viewing the world and of viewing yourself. Now you've got your 9 classifications of narcissistic personality disorder. We've covered the difference between narcissistic personality disorder and then just having varying degrees of narcissistic traits on the narcissistic spectrum. In addition to the 9 ways that I've given you to overcome narcissistic patterns, because narcissistic patterns are so impulsive, if you really stop and really try to take a minute before you respond to anything, you can stop giving such negative, reactive responses with consistent effort. So like a common goal that anybody would make, losing weight. So what does it take to succeed at that, right? Consistent lifestyle changes, effort, right? It's not just once in a while, it's everywhere. You have to be aware of what's going in your mouth. So in this case, you have to be aware at every minute of what's coming out of your mouth. Be self-reflective every day. If you have narcissistic traits or full-on NPD, you have to actively be aware, and you have to strive, or you'll never come out of it. But you can do this. And every time you slip back, because it'll happen. You're not going to get it right instantly. Make amends. Use each experience as that learning and growing experience to put things that you're learning into practice. You freaking, you hurt somebody's feelings. Instead of reminiscing, oh, I'm so just go do it. Okay, I'm so sorry. I don't even know. Just be honest. Be vulnerable. If you are here because you are worried about somebody else in your life that you love, if you think that this narcissistic person is willing to make the change, then you should try to share this with them. But if not, there might be another avenue that you're going to need to take. But if there are those of you that have watched this, that you could share this with who would benefit, please do share this. And for those of you who are still responding, whatever, narcissists don't change. People don't change because they're not willing to do the work. Period. But if anyone is willing to commit themselves to their own work, I promise you, there's a very, very, very strong and realistic possibility they can change their entire life. You have to start with being your authentic self. My authentic self is loud, sometimes moody, sometimes I'm bossy. But I'm so full of love and passion and care. Get to know you, your authentic self. And so for some of you, if you have these traits or NPD, you have to do these things. No other way forward. If you keep doing what you're doing, hearing with an open ear, being defensive, reacting, you're not mindful, you're selfish, you're not empathetic, this is absolutely horrible and toxic for the people around you. And all I can guarantee is that if you were really to follow these very simple steps every single day, for even just a couple of weeks, not only will your mental health significantly improve, but so will too your physical health, your quality of life, your relationships in all realms of your life. And so for those of you who are still going, nah, I'm doing this my way, I'm used to getting it my way, I'm that person, that's cool. I don't want to get in the way of your authenticity, man, but if that is your authentic style, you can't really expect a whole lot of people to be getting down with that shit, can you? So understand. Just like people say, rule of physics, for every action, there's an equal and opposite reaction. You want to treat people that way? Well, actually, we're trying to teach those people to completely walk away from you, but if you want to put the work into getting rid of these traits within yourself, there's a very rich life ahead of you. Commit to yourself. See what works for you and do it in line with other therapies, right? I guarantee you there's a very bright future ahead of you, beautiful soul. Thank you guys so much for being here and for watching this video. Please do let me know in the comments what you liked about this, or if there's topics that you would like me to dive into more specific, as I do plan to share much more about narcissism. Is part of my purpose. And so everybody, just love each other, love yourselves, and just be the love, baby. Thanks for being here.